when I would get those high-end listings, and I'm new, even 2 years in the business, like that's one of the added benefits of being on a team.
So the big question is, what are the top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams, and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? If you ever thought about this, you're not alone. No one has been able to get the answers until now.
We spent the last few years helping agents sell billions in real estate, rubbing shoulders with top producers, which got us thinking, how can we expose more people to these insights to help raise the standard in the whole real estate industry? We then realized that we could help bridge the gap by getting the secrets from the best of the best so that you can succeed. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Elite Agent Secrets podcast. On today's episode, we got Brian Colonna. He has been in real estate for 5 years. He now runs the most successful team in South Jersey, and this year they will do $100 million in sales. Brian, thanks for coming on the podcast with us today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So just off air, we've been chatting. You know Peter well. You go back away. So let's go to a bit of backstory. It's always good, I think, perspective for everyone. How the hell did you get here? And tell us a bit more about the journey to 100 million.
Dude, before you even get started in here, I'll interject because I remember exactly where I was and you calling me, telling me you're leaving your corporate job and you're going into real estate full time. I remember getting in trouble for taking way too many breaks to have this exact conversation. And look, fast forward 5 years, it's been one hell of a freaking journey.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. I mean, that was a stressful time in my life because I hated my corporate job. You know, and
too.
almost everybody besides a few like yourself, said like, you're crazy, bro. Don't leave. You have a great job. You've got benefits. You've got, a good salary, whatever. Stay.
I think I was the only one to told you to just freaking do it and not look back at the time. Cause I remember you sharing and you were calling me about this. Like, hey, talk to Francis. He had nothing to lose. He just went into this, just dove right in. You got what it takes. We have some network marketing experience before. So you were really skilled at prospecting, connecting with people. And every time we talked about real estate, like you just absolutely lit up.
Yeah. Yeah. I always had a passion about it. I always read a lot and about investing and wanted to get into the business. But, I guess like you said, Francis had got in and he was maybe licensed for like 2 weeks. I went out and had dinner with him. And I'm like, I'm getting licensed.
Thanks for the invite.
And, right after that, I signed up, got my license 3 months later and hit the ground running. But, it was interesting because when I was getting into real estate, I had no idea where to begin. I just knew it was what I wanted to do. And at the time, I kept my corporate job initially because I didn't know how it was going to work out. And I did a lot of research on, like, do I want to be a solo agent? Do I want to join a team? If I want to join a team, what team do I want to join? And I didn't really know much about the local area, like who were the top producers. I didn't pay attention to that. And so I did my research, and there was like 2 or 3 teams that kept popping out. One of them was Val Nunningham's team. And at the time, I had no idea who Val was. I mean, half the planet knew who he was, but I didn't know who he was.
Sure.
And I was like scrolling through web pages at night. It was like 1 a.m, and there was a picture of Val's team online. And there was a guy that I would go to the gym with in the back. It was actually a jiu-jitsu gym, a buddy from jiu-jitsu. So I text him that night, like 1 a.m, and I'm like, bro, do you work for Val? Or like, how do you know him? Can you set up an interview? And the next morning he got back to me. He's like, yeah, man, I'll set up an interview for you. You're all good. And that was my foot in the door. And a couple weeks later, I met with Val. I wasn't even licensed yet. I was like just finishing the courses and about to take my state test. And had the interview process, and he decided to give me a shot. Started on the team, had no clue what I was doing. I just sort of watched, soaked everything in, and hit the ground running. And I mean, I chased everything. I ran with rentals, with buyers, with crazy people, with like homeless people. Anyone that wanted to see a house, I was out there. I was doing open houses every weekend. And, I also knew I had to focus on the investment side. And that's really what helped me build my business and gain the credibility. Is my first deal ever was actually a purchase through an investor that he was going to flip. So he purchased the house. I got a sale. He rehabbed the house. I got a listing. So I'm in the business for like 2 months. I already have a sale and a listing. And then I sold the listing to one of my great friends who also was a big motivator to get into the business. So it was just ironic that he bought that house. And he's still there today. He loves it. So
really,
yeah.
And people say coincidence don't exist.
Yeah.
If we take a step back, like we've talked about this on some other ones, and I think it's interesting. When you're brand new, like fresh, straight out, like into real estate, how did you go through learning like stuff like doing the open houses? Like, how did you bridge that gap where you just knew like nothing? Yeah. And you had to go out into this world and you're like, I'm going to chase everything. But there's a difference between chasing everything like aimlessly and there's with others with like at least a little bit of direction and purpose, right? Because we actually had Jerome on, Francis' brother, and he was like, he got some help as well, right? To point him in the right direction with open houses. Like, so was that the same for you? Did you have mentors? Like, how did you figure it out? Or was it trial by fire? Like, I had no clue.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of both, man. I trial by fire for sure. Like, I was dabbling with everything and just trying to soak in as much as I can. But at the same time, I mean, that's why I decided to join a team and why I think it's very beneficial for a lot of new agents to join a team, at least when you're new. If you want to come in and do your own thing a year later, that's great. You know what I mean? But it's a huge benefit to gain the credibility of a team. Like when I came in the business, the reason I randomly got that investor client is because he saw that I was on the Val Nunnenkamp team. He had no idea that I didn't sell real estate ever. This was my first deal. He just saw, oh man, he works for this team. They're, a high level team, and Val's been in the business 30 years. So he trusted me. You know what I mean? And then as a new agent, it's really hard to gain trust unless it's from like a friend or family member. It's difficult to get that from strangers. So getting on a team is huge. And it was for me to sort of build that credibility and have mentors around me to help, facilitate my growth.
Yeah, you're leveraging them and their expertise, right? It's like, hey, our team is sold. This is just hypothetical. It's like they've done 1,000 listings, 1,000 deals this year. And I'm a member of the team. Our team has done 1,000 listings. You're brand new, but our team has done 1,000, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like we had listings, we've got open houses, inventory for me to work with. So I could go any weekend and be like, I'm going to do an open house here. I could get on video. It's not just some stranger's house. Like, it's our team's listing. I'm allowed to promote it. It is my team's listing. So you do gain that credibility when you're new in the business that you're not going to have access to without a team.
Yeah, I'm literally doing the same exact thing right now down here in Boca, and it is such a steep learning curve that you're able to cut down probably in half at the very least, right? Because like you're walking into the team, and I'm assuming they already have a process, they already have a system for how they do these open houses. So when you were dabbling into everything, did they already have some of that infrastructure for you? Because I know you put a lot of it in place now, and you've made it your own and better, and you went 10x, right? Because that's just who you are for as long as I've known you. So talk about a little bit about that. How has that evolved into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, well, when I came in, there was a staff in place, right? We have processors, we have marketing, we have people that are there to help you and facilitate those transactions, which is, again, huge because real estate is like a shit show most of the time. It's crazy. There's always wild stuff going on. Every deal, literally every deal. I've sold hundreds and hundreds of homes now. Every deal, something weird happens, and it's new and different. So,
dude, I had something as simple as the lender forgetting to tell us that we need a VA termite inspection for a closing next week when we did the inspection 3 weeks ago. Like,
right.
wait,
Yeah, you
what?
need the
How
clear
did you
cert.
miss this?
You
I
need
asked
the
you
clear
6
cert.
times if you got it, you know?
Right. And that's the stuff where, like, when you have that back end support, they're there to sort of teach you and guide you through the process when that weird stuff comes up. And you have tons of contacts. Like, we've got people now, like, if we need something today, we can get it done. And that's a benefit that a team provides to their client base, et cetera. But when you're brand new, if you're like, who the hell do I call to get an inspection today for a termite? So we can, like, you won't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're leveraging those connections. But
And,
yeah, I mean,
what did you guys do to get those vendors, those contacts? I know it's probably years in business and Val being in the business, but you have your own crew, you have your own team now that you get to leverage. So I'm assuming you don't have only one inspector, you don't have only one appraiser, you don't have one of, electrician, whatever. So talk about like how you found the right members or vendors that you added into your A team.
Yeah, I mean, that is from time in the business. And yeah, Val had his own contacts and people that were beneficial that I'll still use some of those today. But then there's people that I created relationships with that I could have met randomly. Like I met a guy that does property management randomly one day. I was showing a foreclosure to an investor, probably like a year into the business. And I go into this basement and there's this dude standing down there in the corner with like 2 feet of water in the basement and a flashlight. And I'm like, bro, who are you? He's like, oh, I work for the bank. I thought he was going to like shoot me or something. Like he was like, I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, who would be down in this basement right now? I literally had 2 feet of standing water.
Thank God Jersey is in a closed carry state, right?
But that guy, Vaughn, I still use him to this day, probably every week for certain items like move outs, clean out, lot changes, things like that. And he's a great asset to have a connection with. And it's just from doing business, being in the business, being out there, meeting people. And, I've gone through people that I've used once and were no good. And then I've gone through people that I've used and were trustworthy and great and responsive. And, I put them on speed dial.
Right.
That's awesome. One of the important things that you said, he's an asset in your business. I don't know if the audience caught that, but that means it's somebody who you can always count on. You use him for the last few years that you've been in the business, who continues to help you grow your business because he's dependable, reliable. So he's not a liability. As we know, being in this business, there's a lot of liability from the vendors that you say, because no matter whether you're the one who fucked up and screwed up, it's your fault. Right. If you made that referral, it's your fault.
Right.
So.
Like I had that he saved me the other day, just like as an example with real estate, everything's crazy. We go to do a walkthrough and the people didn't clear like 80% of the house out, right? So there's just garbage everywhere, stuff's piled up, never got it removed, and they're like, we can't do it. And the people are like, well, we're not closing with it in there. It's like $6,000 worth of debris that needs to be removed from the house. And they had to close that day because of a job change with her loan. If she had closed on Monday, this was a Friday, she would have started the new job and they would have had to wait a month or something like that for new pay stubs to come out for her loan to close. So I called that guy. Vaughn runs out there. He gets this place cleared out in like 2 hours. We're able to put the invoice on the HUD versus the seller, and it worked out great. Everyone was happy. The work got done. And it was just, more of a miscommunication on the listing agent side, but we were able to resolve that because we have good people in place and get things done.
That is so important.
Yeah.
That is so important. So as far as your real estate sales, talk to us a little bit about how you go from getting your first deal, right, that comes into fruition to listings to now doing over $100 million. Help us understand, how do you bridge that gap from your first commission of 5K GCI to
what happened year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 to year 5? Give us a rundown. I did 2 deals in my first year and then I did 400 in my second. Like, what did it look like?
Yeah. So I started in August, right? And I did like 2 or 3 deals my first calendar year, which was only
Welcome to the August Club.
4 months. You know what I mean? It wasn't a lot of time. So like that 4 months I did that, that investor purchase, flip, resell. So I had like 3 transactions under my belt in 2016 for 4 months. But like I got the taste of it and was running it and started to build my pipeline at that point, because the whole time I was running with people, meeting buyers, putting myself out there to gain listings, trying to contact with more investors to build that side of my business. You can only have so many.
Where did you find them? How did you build that pipeline? Where did they come from? From other investors or cold calling? What mechanics?
I mean, they came from multiple avenues. So the one guy was just like someone I was coaching with. You know what I mean? I was coaching youth football with and was talking to him about real estate and connected with him on that avenue. I was using Conversion, which is like a CRM system at the time. And I met, it was a random lead through Conversion. And I met him at a property and we walked through it and we didn't really speak beforehand. It was just he wanted to see the property. He was an investor. I didn't know much about him. So at the property, I talked to him a little bit, got a feel for him. And I told him straight up, like, do not buy this property. There's no ROI on it. It's not a good deal. And he was like, man, I really appreciate that. And 2 weeks later, he bought a great deal from me, did it very well on it. And to this day, he's probably done 20 to 30 transactions with me over the course of 5 years.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And, just branched out. Now, you can't have too many investors. You know what I mean? You have to be able to feed those guys business. And if you're not able to feed them business, they're going to find someone who can. So it's important to you're going to have investors with different appetites. I have some that just want rentals. They buy and hold rental properties. And I've got some that do flips. And I've got some that do a mixed bag where they hold rental properties and they do flips. But like realistically, you probably can't run with more than like 3 to 5 investors at a time, especially in this market. It was different like a couple years ago.
Inventory wise, right?
Yeah, now it's like 3's too many. You know what I mean? It's like, who are you going to give it to? Who are you gonna send that deal to? Because there's not that many to come across right now. But I mean, on the investment side, it's just building like a tight relationship with people that are serious investors that are going to continue to use you. They're not going to buy the property, list it with someone else, whatever it may be.
Got it. But all of your business is not investing, right? It's also regular, normal people who are looking to move into their new future.
Probably 75% is like your standard residential. And a lot of that built up, it's a mixed bag of things. So yes, I use CRM systems and I would generate leads from there. Not tons, you know what I mean? But I would generate leads from there, and that was bonuses. My sphere of influence is really everything, man. It's like who you know, what's your personal network, what's your social media presence with those connections. I mean, that's where you're going to gain the trust and the confidence of, those people that are around you and know you in your local atmosphere, because real estate's hyper local, right? It's not like some online business where you could sell to someone in California. It's who's in your, couple mile radius that's going to live there, buy there, sell there. And that's who you have to connect with. And for me, that's been the biggest asset. And a lot of that credibility came from those initial investors where I was having listings and I was on a team. So they knew that I had, even the people that knew me, that knew I was in the business for a short while in the beginning, knew I had a solid team and foundation behind me. So they were confident to use me. Didn't think twice about going somewhere else, and just having those authentic relationships, man, that's where it's going to come from. And then, giving back to people and meeting people. Like, I can't tell you all the contractors I refer business to, the property management people, the inspectors. I give them a lot of business, and it comes back to you when you least expect it, but it comes back where like their sister's moving or their mom needs to sell. those type of connections, when you're helping other people grow their businesses, will come back to you. But it's time. Like my first year in the business, my first full year, 2017, I think I was 42 transactions, and I did 10 million in sales. So that was a great year. And that's when I sort of got put on the map, where even like the people on the team, like Val, he gave me a shot, but didn't really know me. You know what I mean? I was just working, and I did 10 million and then was the number one agent on the team in the first year. So then it was like, okay, who is this guy? What the hell is he doing? You know, he works hard, you know, and that's like doing the volume and building solid relationships, especially with your buyers, is huge, because in year 2, year 3, year 4, all those people start to sell, upsize, downsize, give referrals to their sisters, their brothers. And that's how that real estate business snowballs from a sphere of influence, because your existing or your initial client base, that if you do a good job with those first 20 to 40 people, is going to grow into 200 to 400 people over the course of 5 years.
So let's break down the sphere of influence here a little bit, because you used to work a corporate job. When you first got into business, everybody always says, oh, talk to your friends and family, aka your sphere of influence. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the beginning, you didn't really have a sphere of influence. You intentionally built and developed those relationships, right? Because that's how, for as long as I've known you, you always were very quick to connect with somebody, find a common ground, build that relationship. But you were also very intentional about contributing, not from a real estate perspective, but just to their life in general, right? Yeah. So you built that sphere where there are certain actions or things that you can share with the audience that really, for lack of better words, I guess, say you were selfishly giving back to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, look, it comes from so many different avenues. And honestly, it comes from like authentic, real relationships. My number one referral source to this day is guys that I've met and known through like the jiu-jitsu gym and people I've trained with and stuff like that. I've helped so many of those people, either family or friends, buy and sell real estate, buy buildings, whatever it may be. That is just from time spent with them, not anything real estate related, just time spent in their lives, whatever they're doing, or building bonds with like a common like, or a common activity, hobbies, whatever that might be. So if you have hobbies or you have, activities you like to do or participate in, that's definitely going to help build real life relationships, which is going to build that referral source. And then the other huge thing for me is my kids. So I have 2 kids. Both are very active in local sports. My son plays baseball. He used to play football. He used to wrestle. My daughter plays soccer. She plays softball. I coach. I love coaching. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun for me. I have fun with the kids. My son's older now. I'm done coaching him, but my daughter, I'm still actively coaching. You meet a lot of parents, a lot of, people in the community just through being a coach and having fun. I never coached to get real estate business. I coach because I like sports and my kids and having fun, but you meet people, you build relationships, you're having barbecues and whatever, and it's just building those relationships and those connections with people that they'll come back and use you again.
What I love about that, it's you're basically integrating the things that you love that you're already doing, and because you're just giving and you're present, right? Mm-hmm. People see that, and that authenticity sorry,
tongue twisting.
There you go. Help me out. Comes out, and the genuine relationships are really being created. So you're really playing the long-term game. Mm-hmm. You're not in this for the next transaction. You're in this like, I'm going to be here for the next 5, 10, 50 years for as long as I can get in that Range Rover and get from listing to listing, right?
Yeah.
And show these people how to get deals.
It's fun. Man, I'll tell you. So for the first 3.5 years of business, I whipped my Hyundai Sonata like hardcore. You know what I mean? Like that was my ride, and I never thought a thing about it. You know what I mean? I was like, this is my Hyundai. It's great. My payment's $280 a month. Like, love it. You know what I mean?
From point A to point B.
And Val was like, this is like my third or fourth year in. I'm doing like 15 million or more a year at this point. And he's like, you should think about getting like a nicer car or something at some point, just spend some money. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I didn't even think of it. But in 2020, January, I got a Range Rover. I always wanted a Range Rover. So I splurged there, picked up the Range Rover.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I love it. And I noticed though, as soon as I got that, like the high-end listings and the luxury stuff, I was landing those appointments a little bit better. And it was because I didn't think of it, but I'm pulling up to like an $800,000 or $1 million house in South Jersey, which are nice homes, in my Hyundai, and I look like I'm 15 years old, and they're like, "Who is this kid?" Like,
people are judgmental.
So when you pull up in the Range, they're like, even if I look young or whatever it may be, they're like, well, he drives a Range Rover, so I guess he does okay. This is how people think. The people that you don't know. You know what I mean? So it did help build on the high-end market as far as like a look or whatever it may be, but it never crossed my mind.
Yeah, it's perception. It's that first impression, right? So anybody says that they don't matter, they do, especially in real estate when the business is very materialistically driven, right? You almost have to kind of validate that. But I think the bigger lesson to take away from this is you didn't need a Range Rover to sell a lot of fucking real estate and be successful.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's just an added perk. Now it's just a little bit easier, right? So anybody who's listening to this, you don't have to go out and be bougie and flashy for the clout. Put in the work.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And here's what you do too. When I would get those high-end listings, and I'm even 2 years in the business, like that's one of the added benefits of being on a team. Like you bring your team lead. I would bring Val out to those appointments. Val's been in the business so long, he would know someone that went to school with these people's daughter or something. Like it's just, he knows everyone and would be able to build those connections and that credibility. So if you're on a team, like, yes, there are people in this business or clients that are going to be, looking at, a status type of thing. How long have you been in the business? So if you're on that team, you bring me or you bring Val to a listing, and you're going to have someone that can talk through those tough conversations that the higher end market tends to be a little bit more competitive. Your average market or lower end market is generally like, good relationships, or they're interviewing 1 or 2 agents. But when you get up to the 7-figure market, they're interviewing 5 or 6.
Different ball game.
Yeah. It's a business to them. You know what I mean?
I think the other thing as well, right? Let's just put yourself in a position of you buying $1 million, $2 million, $5 million home, right? And it's like, well, this guy, again, we'll go back to the team, but it's like, it might be new, but like this guy next to him's 30 years been selling homes. He's sold, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of homes. And I know he's going to help him every step of the way. I'm not actually just buying this one dude. I'm buying like all the experience combined with this entire team.
Right.
Because they ain't going to let this thing slide, because ultimately it benefits them that you close the deal. They take a cut, right? So they want the deal to go through. You are aligned with your goals. It's like, we all want that $10 million house to sell. So like, we're going to make sure this goes through smooth sailing. Well, smooth sailing in real estate is like 1 or 2 bumps, right? It's never smooth. Like we've discovered
about 5 on average.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. Now, before you go, we're giving access to a private training we did where we revealed the top 3 niches to get listings today completely for free. So if you want access, you can go and download that training at eliteagentsecrets.com. We're regularly releasing new trainings, guides, and cheat sheets, so make sure to head over to eliteagentsecrets.com and sign up so you don't miss out.